we live? Let's go and see how many people we have. Let me check on the YouTube first. Let me know, people, in the comments when you start coming in. We have probably a few watchers, maybe. I know there's E Minor from the Discord has hopped on there. I don't know if he... I don't know if he has meant to come on. Wants to chat. E Minor.
Hello.
How is it going? I need to get some headphones.
Oh, it's the decaying empire and all that.
It is. It is indeed. What about decency?
What about civility?
What about civility?
Why didn't they just vote?
I know, but like they did vote. You see, I'm all confused here. I don't understand.
They did, and they lost their vote in thin margins.
Yeah. Oh dear. I was so tell me the story, because I wasn't very fully informed. I've only was half following it when you were all going kind of off in the Twitter. Did Trump do a rally and they all turned up with arms and then he sent them off? Is that what's happening?
I thought he did a rally last night. I'm pretty sure he did a rally last night. I don't think he did a rally today, although I could be wrong.
Okay, yeah, no, because like so we got another. Who else we have here? We've got a forklift work posting all the way from Norway. Oh, you're just unmute. Let me unmute you. You've muted yourself, forklift.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's cold as fuck though, but
where are you in Norway?
Oslo.
Oslo. Okay, my brother is living in Stavanger.
Yeah, really shit place.
Is it? Yeah, that's what I like.
Yeah, they got it's like oil capital.
Yeah.
So they have like a lot of really shitty middle management, posh boys.
Sounds about right. Sounds about right. What do you call it? Yeah, so I hear in Norway they're starting to call the Trump presidency the US regime. Is that true?
They did it on the state news. So the equivalent to the BBC.
That is too good. I like that. I'm going to call him the regime. We should be calling Biden the regime. Let's be true. E Minor, what have you been up to?
Oh, I've just been looking at the streams all day. I got nothing done today.
What time did it start?
Oh God, I think it started probably around noon, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
Sometime around there, noon Eastern time. I'm gonna try to look when stuff went down. Maybe like 1 p.m.
And what's the general gist of, like, are you like surrounded by libs? Was it you that was in the chat saying you were surrounded by libs, or is it somebody else?
No, that was someone else.
Yeah. So like, what's the general gist there, or do you know, or what are your friends or family making of all the madness?
Oh, I don't know. I think that's crazy. These people are nuts. Right, stuff like that, you know.
Have people seen the clip of the cops just like opening the barricades and letting them all run into the Capitol?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they did that.
So like, what's that like? Is that just like because cops are Q-pilled? Is that what people think? Or they just thought, oh, should we let them in, see what happens? Or are people, it's America, God, man, what are the conspiracies going to be like about who these cops were?
Yeah, I don't know. There's like, did they let them in so that they could like
discredit them?
Or like kettle them in or something. Like I don't know. I don't know what the directives are. I don't know if there's going to be an investigation or anything like into this stuff. Like,
this is something that Derek posted in the chat now about a a few minutes ago. What time? No, it's about an hour ago exactly. Let me just see if I can share my screen and get this one up so we can see it. This I found interesting. Now, okay, can we see that there? Let me see if I can I increase the size of this? How do I do that? So this is basically the I don't know if anybody can see it on the screen. Like, it's pretty small here for me, but it's like it's like, let me read it. Whenever the vice president and a majority of either the principal officers of the executive departments or of such other body as Congress may by law provide transmit to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives their written declaration that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the Vice President shall immediately assume the powers and duties of acting President. Thereafter, when the President transmits, and it goes on to say all the way that the Vice President can pass it back, and then it's confirmed that the Defense Department, Secretary of Defense confirms it was Vice President Mike Pence, not President Trump, who authorized the deployment of the National Guard. So that kind of makes you think like somebody's asking here, did Pence invoke the 25th Amendment? But it kind of looks like that might have been, if not officially done, but kind of done in the background. So that's kind of pretty wacky.
Yeah, well, he posted at around 1:00, Mike Pence, the screenshot of like, we're going to be counting the electoral votes and blah blah blah, and to the best of my knowledge, like nothing's gonna like he's not. I don't think he's planning on saying that Trump is going to be president or something. So I don't know. It's hard to get like any like reliable stuff. I don't know. Like, I don't think we've heard from a lot of like senators or Pelosi or anybody like that. I think they're all just in a state of like, what the hell do we do now? Like,
apparently, Nancy Pelosi is like huddled in a secret room in the Capitol Hill, and she's been surrounded, like swarmed by the squad. So like they have like, a double layer of squad members all around her, protecting her and going to take bullets for her. That's the rumor.
Yeah.
Controversial.
Yeah.
Not controversial at all. Let's forget Ronil.
But on the Mike Pence calling the National Guard, I think also, like, in very stressed environments, communication breaks down and like it goes quite quickly to initiative. And like, if you call it the National Guard, like the legal stuff might not be worked out. You'd have to act in the moment and like.
Yeah, but I don't think, like, seriously, like, there's no chance that this is an actual coup. It may be like Trump's pathetic attempt at kind of madness, but like in no way does this look like in any way an organized coup. But like,
no, it's definitely not a coup like state-wise.
No, like, it's in like, all they have to have is Joe Biden out in Virginia in some Air Force, and they just let these idiots run around Capitol Hill for a week or two.
Yeah.
And, even if it was a week, like, they could just mop them up. And like, and if they really wanted, they can get them really easy. All they need to do is barricade them in and steam them up.
But it doesn't have to be a coup to be like substantial political
crisis.
Consequences. Yeah,
I think
so. So, and Biden has his own interests and his own friends who are not necessarily aligned with the Trump administration on every point. And when this crisis erupts, he wants to look like a man of action, a savior of the regime or whatever, and then he outplays Trump on this. I don't think it necessarily was a particularly planned or thought out action.
No, I think it's just like, Barring like the 4 or 5 days in the middle of the summer when I didn't sleep, and I was like, there was like one of these reality TV programs they had in UK about 10 years ago, where it was like a sleep deprivation one, and they got everybody like in a room, and they all went like kind of crazy after about 3 or 4 days, and they had to stop the program and stop broadcasting. So like when I didn't sleep for like a few days in the middle of summer, I thought like this is the revolution or something like mad. But like, I think that there is as much chance of this doing anything as George Floyd was as spontaneously becoming a communist revolution. That's the way I put it. But what I think it does display is a deep, deep kind of crisis in American politics, as in and in society. It just shows like how messed up things have gotten, that this is a thing that can actually end up happening. And I think as the American empire starts losing its value, like everybody in Europe looking at this now happening, like people, I think people in the States, I don't know, it's hard to tell, but looking at since the coronavirus and Trump and all this stuff, like people, you tell me now, Forklift, you're in Norway there, like what is the general gist of normie people in Norway when they look at America now? Do they see it as a shining beacon of light, a leading figure for democracy and truth around the world? Not talking about your anarchist or your Marxist commie friends, but just like your dad or like your granny.
No, but like at work, for example, and I work at like a large warehouse, and we're outside and we're smoking, and we started talking about the George Floyd uprising, and like people who were not particularly anti-police in Norway, they're like, oh, fuck the American police. If I lived there, I would have no choice. I would have to shoot one. I'm a black man or whatever. That's the kind of conversation that's going. And I think the sort of ideal of America that was very strong and has been like a very strong influence over Europe is very much in decline, and it has been in decline for a long while, but it's really started escalating with Trump. Breaks sort of the illusion of like proper competent leadership, and the coronavirus and the uprising, and now this this fucking coup attempt or whatever. It really shows it as sort of a capitalist state in decline, and I think people get this intuitively.
Yeah, no, it is kind of crazy. Let's have a look in the chat here. Erica is saying "Putsch, lol." Yeah, that was my thinking. It wasn't a serious title there, Erica. Before you even get lose your head. Let's see here. Somebody else here said, "What is it?" It's going quite quick in the chat here. We're getting a few people, but I like this comment here. The US could use with a Taoiseach. Could use a Taoiseach. And that's true. Like, if ever there's like great leadership to be on display, it's always the Irish political class. Let's go down. We're supposed to have some Emancipation crew on soon, but we'll see sure when they hop on. E minor, any thoughts yourself on the situation? Like, what do you think is going to happen? Like, what do you think is going to happen today?
I don't know what's going to happen today, but I think Joe Biden's going to be like reelected and going to be inaugurated. I don't know what's going to happen, if MAGA is going to be like feel defeated or feel yeah, I don't know, because like they've had like the thing is like people say that like this is like, oh, look at this is kind of like a win for the MAGA people because they were just let in Congress, but like I think like 3 people have died already, or like one I know one has already died. Some lady got shot in the neck. There was a guy that got a heart attack from a flashbang, and some guy was climbing the scaffolding or something, or climbing like something, and he like fell off, and he's in like critical condition. So I don't know what you know. I don't know if they're gonna think it's like a win, or like they're gonna be betrayed, or I think that they were probably deluded to think that Pence was gonna like this was gonna be the day, because that's what this was supposed to be. It's like, oh, just wait, January 6th, Trump's unveiling his masterpiece, and now like they're calling the National Guard like over him, and he's like telling them to go home, and like, so I don't know. But I think like it's definitely worrying how nutty these people are, and how kind of prepared they are to scrap, you know.
Do you think they're prepared to scrap? I don't think they're prepared to scrap.
Well, they're definitely prepared to scrap with Antifa, anyone who they think is Antifa, which is, anyone on the left, or BLM, or,
Are they though?
I don't think this is gonna do well for those instances, and I think the Biden presidency is just gonna see a continuation of street battles with this stuff. So I don't think that this might be a morale booster. It might not, but I don't know. I don't see it unless like 50% of these people are like put into federal prison, which, like the fallout from that could be not great for the left either. But, I don't know. I don't see it working out all that well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I don't like my impression of looking at stuff. I'm not obviously not on the ground, but my impression of looking at stuff is that like these Proud Boy MAGA types, they are interested in going around in a group, and if they catch a random leftist, giving them a beating, right? But they're not interested in a big like show of force versus another one. It's not really a thing. Nothing really kicks off too much. It's kind of a charade. I also get the impression that like they thought the cops would be undersized. They rolled up there with their arms and their guns, like in Michigan State. They think they'll be let in. They can let off a bit of steam, but things have kind of gotten a bit out of hand, or maybe they're a bit more riled up too. Like, they might actually be riled up. But a huge element of like what we see, like, I don't know, from what they've just pictures and general gist of this, the people that are there, it seems like there's a hell of a lot of like mental illness on show. Not taking the piss. Like, I think a lot of people there seem like it's not like they're like organized fash or anything. It's kind of like maybe there are a lot of that there, but there's also a large element of people who look like they've have some form of schizophrenia, or kind of just general run-of-the-mill kind of crazies. I don't know if what people think about that.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff whips people up into a frenzy, definitely. And I think it's more of like the cultural, like, white supremacist like rot in America. And I don't know. There might be some stuff, but I don't know. I think the stuff is pretty organized. Like, we've known for a while that they were gonna, like, this was gonna be the day, and a lot of, like, the Proud Boys have been organizing a lot, over the past couple of years and stuff. But yeah, it's not good stuff.
Earlier today, or yesterday, depending on time zone, there was this video of police and Proud Boy clashing. And sort of my view of it is that they of course right now they seem somewhat disorganized, undisciplined, lacking sort of a spirit of commitment when they fight with police. Like they're not really pushing. It's like a bit of showing here and there, but not like full on. But you can't bet on this continuing to be a trend. If they start having more direct confrontation with the police, like it isn't that hard to be pretty disciplined. With experience, it comes quickly. So if the Biden presidency is marked with a series of like far-right engagement on the street, they will of course adapt. Just as when BLM started, there was a lot of like so-and-so discipline and tactics on the ground, but it quickly like professionalized itself. And the same might happen with the Proud Boys or Trumpist or whatever.
Like, yeah, it may happen, but like, you know, my like the thing is with the whole this whole like Proud Boy element or whatever, it's like the state could just shut them down very quickly if they wanted to. If they actually just set the FBI on them, and you know, like they could do to what they did to the Klan in the 60s. They could literally decide, okay, this is a kind of an organizational power structure in the state or within this nation we want to just take apart. Like the question is like, does Biden and those have the actual will, or are they kind of happy to have them sitting there as a kind of a boogeyman? Oh, let's add in Tiberius here. Tiberius, what do you make of that?
You mean about whether or not Biden is going to use this as an excuse to clamp down on all popular movements, left and right?
Well, no, look, let's assume he's going to clamp down on the left ones. That's just a given. So the thing is, like, will he actually clamp down like they did on the Klan on this kind of QAnon Proud Boy stuff?
I don't know. I mean, it kind of remains to be seen how much of this is just superficial tantrum throwing and how much of this is like a legitimate threat. I mean, there's a large segment of this that, you know, is definitely like QAnon and adjacent and could potentially be like a serious threat to people bodily and their livelihoods. But, you know, Biden is still like, he's still a couple weeks away from being president. We don't know what's going to happen on January 20th. And it's hard to see how this sort of like keeps up at this kind of level past the inauguration.
It's quite early as well. Like, what date is today? Is it the 6th? You know, so
yeah, it's the 6th right now.
Like 2 weeks of mayhem, you wouldn't know what could happen. But like, I think most people will be quite shocked at what happened. And I would think most Republicans, I think this gives, like, part of me thinks this gives the fuel to the Republican Party to actually dump Trump. You know, you have people like, what's your man? The Dan Crenshaw. I saw that goddamn ad today where he jumped out of an airplane. That was hella brilliant. But like he came out and said like, quit this fucking shit or something like that. And like, he's kind of modeling him. Like, to me, he seems to be like one of the more likely ones to come into that kind of Trumpian mold, and he's going against it. So like, I think that the Republican Party I think there's a good chance they would use this as a way to throw Trump under the bus. Like, you'd have to think the establishment knew what was going on. Something like the Proud Boys would be riddled with informers. Like, all you have to do is name fucking cornflakes boxes, you know, while you're getting punched in the ribs to join it or something. So it's like, how could it not be riddled with informants and they not know what's going down? So it seemed to me that they want it seems quite likely that they wanted this as maybe use it as a way to allow the Republicans to dump that element. Anybody?
Yeah, I think they're like, I don't know. I think that they're kind of wanting to ride it out. Now I think they're like, they wanted to like, they wanted to like try to play nice with Trump. Like, oh well, we should have an election. A look at the election. What if there was fraud? To kind of placate those people. Maybe they didn't want to challenge her or anything, but yeah, I don't know. With this stuff is definitely could. I mean, they found a pipe bomb at the RNC. Like, I like this. This could very well discredit, explicit like Trump succession kind of Trumpism. I feel bad saying that because I think it's a lot of liberals use that way too much. But like, yeah, I don't know.
Like,
it'll be interesting with in the Republican Party, but I don't know.
Will the bourgeois will they put the pressure on Fox News, Newsmax, and all these? What's that one? Ona, what's the Spanish one? Are they going to like put pressure on them to?
Well, Fox News has already been like criticizing Trump and not, going along with it. And now his supporters are moving to like Newsmax and One America News Network. The really like explicitly Trump, basically alternative media. So yeah, I definitely don't. You had the National Association of Manufacturers like recommend the 25th Amendment. I'm pretty sure, as long as that wasn't doctored.
When today?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to look it up.
That's really interesting.
That is good. Like, and apparently the Joint Chiefs of no, it was Vice Pence that called out the Chiefs of the National Guard. I was wondering, was it actually Pence, or was it actually just the National Chief? The Chiefs?
I think they said it was Pence and the other people from the military and Senate leaders, and they didn't involve Trump. So I don't know if that's like a 25th Amendment thing, or if that's just like this guy's stupid and he just is going to watch TV all day, so we'll go in over his head.
I don't think that specifically is a 25th Amendment thing. I mean, there's real talk among the Republicans right now about whether or not they should be doing this. I kind of doubt they will. But like in all of this, it's not really so much that the Republicans are walking away from Trump. Trump is just doing what he does with every business partner of his that doesn't swear complete fealty to him, and he's just pushing them away. I mean, because that's what he's always done. Like everybody who's worked with him in his business has always been burned by Trump, and so this is just the point in which the Republicans can no longer support Trump because he is not allowing them to. Like, he's burning all of his bridges. Like, if he really wanted to do a coup, he is burning all of his elite support that would allow him to do it. And there just isn't the popular mobilization or will for him in order to be able to like do a bottom up coup.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I also think like when we're talking about this as a defeat of Trumpism, we're talking about this as like a defeat of the more explicit bigotry or rightist form of politics, or are we talking about the defeat of Trump as a persona, as somebody who's hard to make long-term commitments and agreements and organizational forms with? And I think like the Republican Party of tomorrow may just be as bad as Trump, but more disciplined and more consistent and more able to work with their own than Trump has been. So the death of Trumpism, as the aftermath of this coup, may just be like a death of Trump as a person and not as like the central problems of this regime.
Like, sorry, her ahead.
So yeah, it was confirmed that the National Association of Manufacturers, like called Trump called Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment. These were the people who lobbied for Taft-Hartley, like our saviors.
Hallelujah. Hey, everyone.
How are you, Ezri?
Doing all right. Got have we quoted any Jean Baudrillard yet? I just, history that repeats itself turns to farce. Farce that repeats itself turns to history.
Yeah, well, I think there's a little bit of that, as in, like, I kind of imagine, like, this, what's happening now, to not really go anywhere, but be an indication of things that might happen. And, like, like at the moment, we have, I think, in the kind of our social media realm, we have people stressed out and kind of all kind of highly tense and all this kind of stuff happening. But in the real world, you haven't had World War One. You know what I mean? Or the Treaty of Versailles. Yeah, right. But like, if the American Empire, like this looks very bad for America worldwide. Really goddamn does. And like,
how's it look from the outside? Commandante Alpha and Forklift. Hey,
it looks great. It looks beautiful. It's fantastic. No,
it looks amazing.
From sea to shining sea.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I assume our standing with the world is completely unharmed.
But and that soft power shit matters so much. And like, I think like that soft power thing, like maybe it hasn't, when I was on my crazy no sleep shit for like 4 days, I was thinking, God, the Saudi Arabian revolution is around the corner. But like, that stuff does matter. It actually does matter. And like, I think we will start to see, I think it's inevitable. Like, we're seeing it domestically. It's going to be somehow reflected internationally. It just has to be. And I think if things get worse, what we look at today with Trump and all that, we'll see, well, that was a seed of this thing in the future. So like Baudrillard, like farce becomes history. I can see that happening very much so.
Yeah, for sure. Because the wrong take here is that here comes the fascist coup, right? That cops and the protesters storming in are on the same side. The executive branch of the United States is completely in cahoots with these protesters. Like, you can't really make sense of everything on the ground with that. You can make sense of like cops taking selfies with, some of the protesters. But something I don't know how this happened. A woman, I believe, was shot and killed. How and why did that happen? And frankly, so that's one question. And another question is, why did that happen more? Not that I wanted more deaths to come out of this, but like, I don't imagine that was the only gunshot. And I don't know, you read about a lot of these like massacres that happen in history, right? Where you have a big crowd of people, somebody fires a gun, you're not sure who, and then it ends up in a big old massacre. That didn't happen. It seems like it was
they're definitely with kid gloves.
Yeah. So relatively peaceful dispersal. I mean, we're talking about a cop crackdown and all this stuff. Like, they are, reactionaries and conservatives and whatever. I mean, conservative is I don't know what the word conservative means in this context, but you have to wonder where this is going.
There's also sort of like a reversal of the survivorship bias. You learn about all the massacre that happened, but not all the massacres that didn't happen.
That didn't happen. No, that's quite true.
Yeah, when a gunshot did go off and like people pulled back or whatever, and like there are parts of history that you think it's actually quite incredible that nobody got hurt. In the 80s, there was like the punk scene in Oslo almost beat up Margaret Thatcher, and they was dispersed by helicopters with anti-terror police dropping tear gas canisters.
Wow.
And they almost broke into like a medieval fortress where the meeting was held, and that nobody got really hurt in that action and the aftermath, and like where they just let police attack dog run free in the street. It's really incredible, but nobody got really hurt.
Right.
And
No,
then
that makes
and
sense.
sometimes it's just luck, and sometimes the situation that goes really to hell is just bad luck, and it's sometimes just random, and we might have been really lucky today.
For sure. Part of this is because my mind is warped by studying revolutionary history. And you probably don't get revolutionary history without extreme mismanagement of executive power, like massacres at a protest, right? Like, so makes sense.
It
So
takes
if you're
two
like,
to dance.
yeah, if you're like revolutionary minded, you're looking at this like, oh shit, it's popping off. I assumed if anyone was firing weapons, they'd be fucking dead. But it seems like people fired weapons. I don't know how many, and we didn't have all that many people hurt. It seems like the number was 5, including a death.
But like, how much of it is probably just friendly fire? People high buzzing, just like safety catches off. Oh God, I seem to have shot myself in the groin. You know.
Well,
Like-
the woman who got plugged, it seems like it happened as she was trying to climb through into, what was it, the House chamber that was being barricaded by a couple of Capitol Hill police.
Yeah, she was trying to get through something, and they had like the windows smashed, I think, and she was trying to climb through it, and then she got popped.
Like, it's most likely that they would actually pop a crazy person. You know, somebody with proper mental health, QAnon, crazy, go in there to save the children, and you know, get these pedos who's like wild-eyed and has a gun. I think they'll pop them, and I don't think like the MAGA chuds will like do too much. You know, I don't even know if the QAnon people would do too much, because in the end of the day, these people, they think they can walk around with guns and nothing will ever happen to them. You know, they're overwhelmingly white. They think like, not this happened to me. No, the cops are on my side, and one of them gets shot. I don't think their instinct is to go kill all these goddamn cops. You know, I just don't think that's the instinct. I think their instinct is to go, oh, I can't believe it, God. You know, oh, maybe this is getting serious here.
Yeah, I mean, that's the distinction between like the real far right and, you know, whatever some of the, you know, Trumper MAGA kind of stuff is. Because like the real far right hates the feds, hates them, hates anything that they associate with the federal government, and often state governments too. Like they might have some lingering respect for the army for some soldier reasons, but it's not really a respect for the institution. That's a distinction I feel like is sort of lost. I mean, especially, you know, don't get me started about the discourse or whatever, right? Like people that are you know, for the government in one way or another are either revolutionaries or reactionaries, and the idea of being against the state as it stands is unthinkable. But the traditional far right, like a lot of the militia right, they have more of a sense that, you know, the government has been, you know, subverted and we need a revolution. And so like this is in part the first big expression of something like that on the right that I've seen, I don't know, in my lifetime. Like this is a much bigger version of something that you only really used to hear in what, like militia groups or I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I mean, since the 90s, basically.
mhm.
Yeah, since the
Because in the 90s and the aughts, like there wasn't an extant left. It just didn't exist. And so there wasn't a reason for these people to be backing the police
Eh.
against somebody.
I
Like
mean,
in the
huh.
popular media,
They did.
you had like people who were talking about things like cracking down on crime and stuff like that, but there wasn't a sense on the right that you needed state force against like an actual left or left that existed. And so it was much easier to get more of these people on the right into like anti-federal government, anti-fed militia groups, and to get them really riled up about these things, to the point where you actually started to have things like massacres at right-wing compounds and stuff like that.
The Oklahoma bombings, yeah.
Right. But in the latter half of the Obama years into the Trump years, there was a lot more of a left that was getting organized and loud. And so you had a lot of these same guys who, maybe 20 years prior would have been talking about how the federal government is evil, is now saying, oh, these left-wing people are evil and we need to protect the government from them. And so they just kind of, are, that's the best way to put this. They're coming back around to the realization that the federal government is not actually their friend, even if they share a lot of the same sort of policies. The federal government just isn't as open and crude about it as they want them to be. And so now they're starting to come back on the enemies list.
So what do people reckon? Like, is this a CIA psyop?
no,
I'm joking.
No way.
I'm joking. Seriously, I'm joking. Don't take
Okay.
it seriously.
You joke about it, but I've actually seen that take.
Yeah.
And I think anybody who thinks it just has way too high of an esteem for the CIA, or
Yeah,
really like
I think
any
that's Alex
intelligence
Jones.
agency.
That's
Yeah.
that's Alex Jones's line, right? Like, this isn't us. This is, agents provocateurs. It's what, like,
It's more than that. It's some other people in the right media sphere are like, oh, these aren't the real patriots. This is Antifa that has hijacked.
Yeah.
But
I can see why they'd say that.
right.
Like,
Yeah, exactly. Because they want to keep their grift on, especially Alex Jones.
they want to keep their grift, and there's like, some tactical overlap.
But what a fall for the like most Gucci intelligence service in the world, that they at one time could have a coup in basically every country in the world, and now they're reduced to this even being a question. Like, the CIA has fallen so hard,
they're cooing
They used to be
themselves.
like,
Yeah, we fucked up Bolivia, boys. Let's just do it at home.
Yeah.
We get it right.
Yeah.
the question should be, nah, man, this can't be CIA. They would have the whole army in place. It would be done in 3 seconds. Everything clean, no mess.
Absolutely.
Just do it.
Yeah.
But now it's like, 17 guys on a speedboat. Might be the CIA, whatever, who knows?
Well, look, this is twice.
It's kind of sad.
It's twice this year where the American political, governmental, constitutional order has been called into question somewhat. That's a hell of a year. Like, we had the June stuff when, like, Trump asked the troops on the streets and the army said, no, you're all right there, boss. And this time where basically the vice president called the troops out on a protest that the president was supporting. Like, I'm like, people probably don't take it seriously, but like, you've had all that stuff about force of vote, and we had a split in the left about like a kind of like, a split on I don't know, would you say strategy, but like a kind of an unveiling to a lot of people of a certain sector of the kind of left. So, like, it seems to be that all of these institutions are in flux, and I don't see things getting better in the next couple of years. We're talking to, like, yesterday, the chief scientific officer in the UK. Now, coronavirus is probably getting to the stage as being as bad in America. Like, at the moment, it's 1 in 30 people in London actually have it right now. That's kind of unbelievable. So, like, they're actually talking about not now, but they're talking about next winter's lockdown already in the UK. I don't know if anybody's seen that. So they're talking about, oh yeah, how we'll have to lock down next year. So it's like, I don't see like a release valve anytime soon coming from it, and I don't see the desire on any of these kind of bourgeois regimes in the West of using state power in a manner that would benefit the general populace. So it seems to me there's going to be a long. There's just a lot more shit to happen. It's going to be. I think we're going to be doing these emergency coup live streams, revolution live streams every couple of months now in America for a while.
Well, yeah, because basically every Western regime has spent the last 40 years eviscerating its own state power to deal with these kinds of situations. They've like systematically dismantled all of the, well, I wouldn't say every single, but even the ones that people point to and say, oh yeah, those are socialists still. Like even those have been neoliberalizing for the past 30, 40 years. And a lot of those institutions that grant the state legitimacy under capital because they actually provide a public good for people have been systematically dismantled, and there really don't remain very many viable ways for the state to maintain order when enough of the populace starts to say, hey, this isn't working for me anymore. Why are we supporting this? I want something better, and there's nothing better on offer.
There is 2 cheeseburgers for the price of 1 at McDonald's tonight in Washington. People should check that out. Pretty good. E-Miner, were you trying to get on and say something there a minute ago?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, like, when the vaccine's gonna be rolling out, like, to the general public, it's gonna be like both like probably extremely hard to get. Like, I have family in like Florida, and there the elderly are trying to get their vaccines, and they have like miles of cars just like waiting to to get the vaccine, and they're like the special, the special group that they're not even letting like regular people get it if they don't have enough people willing to take it, so it's going to be both inadequate once it reaches like the general public has to get the vaccine, and they're not going to do it fast enough, and it's going to be super frustrating trying to get it in the first place, unless Biden really like puts some headstrong technocrats in charge that really want to like make an impression or something. But it's gonna suck in the summer when we're trying to get those vaccines.
You could put all of the technocrats you want in charge of it. The question is, do they have the material resources in order to actually do it? And I don't think they do. I don't think that there is a way, even if the Biden administration puts all of its effort into like rolling out a vaccine universally. Like he's in his God, what was it? After the election was called for him, like his 100-day plan was 100 million Americans vaccinated by the end of summer. Like that's what he considered like best case scenario.
That was also Trump's plan. It was 100 million, I think.
Yeah.
So like, it seems though, but like at some stage, like, when we were talking in the summer and things were looking kind of mad, and we had a few of these live streams, like we were like we're kind of saying, where is the bourgeoisie in all of this? The big bourgeoisie, like, where are the, like, at some stage, like, you would have to think, I suppose there is, no, I'm being dumb here. There is no threat to the current regime, let's be honest. So, like, until then, you won't have any, there's not going to be no essentially large change in the structural behavior of, say, the state in, I would think, most of these countries, like UK, America, and it seems just to be at the moment in America where things are most messed up, at the moment. But God knows, the UK is looking like a good second act.
I mean, I've been having this conversation with some people that I talk to on like my, like, I don't know, lesbian video game stream, where like, this one person from Canada is kind of concerned that like, it seems like the right has a better claim to being anti-establishment because of the way that, because of the way that like the center has shifted rhetoric to being progressive in a certain way that, I mean, at least in the United.
Okay, we lost Esri again, have we? Let me see. Esri,
am I flickering in and out?
flicked, you're okay, but you're good again.
I'm back now, baby. Yeah, George Soros is messing with my internet.
Damn straight.
Oh yeah, fucking Soros bucks. I want that Soros check. I don't know. I kind of lost my train of thought. I picked a hell of a time to stop smoking weed. Like, why now of all times this shit should have to get really stupid? What I'm trying to say is that, there is no real threat to the establishment. The fact that it is, MAGA chuds in defense of the president that are sort of throwing just basically a big tantrum. And that's like a relatively polite tantrum, really, if you consider what could have happened if you had, aggrieved people thinking that there is an illegitimate government takeover coming. This is all very strange, but I think you're right that it's a sign of things to come. Does this mean that, the right does the right have like a better claim to being oppositional than we do? Because I guess like, I don't know. I don't know if I really believe that, but that is like the feeling that a lot of people have.
Yeah, like Tiberius in the private chat. Tiberius, do you want to say what you said there? There's some, I think it's true what you said.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're saying like, does the right actually have a better claim to being anti-establishment? And I think to a large extent, yes, if you count the left as being people to the left of the Democratic Party. Because, when you look at the way that they have been like acting sort of en masse, like they don't support the establishment candidates. They rejected the entire slate of like the legitimate Republican candidates in voting Trump. When Republican lawmakers tried to distance themselves from Trump, they got hit hard by their base for doing so. After the election, when it came out, Trump lost, and all the GOP and Fox and these people are starting to say, hey, Trump lost the election. The base basically turned out and started to very vocally reject them. Whereas what did the left do? The left voted for Biden.
Yeah.
Like Bernie lost to Biden way harder than he lost to Hillary Clinton. There's a lot more support among the nominal left for establishment figures, Obama, Biden, Clinton, these people, than there is on the right towards those same establishment. Like if you look at the very far fringes,
Right.
the left on like our fringe is much like more consistent about being anti-establishment, but we're also incredibly tiny and can basically be ignored. Whereas if you look at the sort of like nebulous left and right, it's the right that
Sure.
really is rejecting the establishment as it exists.
But like, I don't know. Like, I think you'd have to say that the left, kind of a large section of it, did look to Sanders, and Sanders was essentially, gutted by the establishment. When the establishment were happy to run with Trump after a certain while, So and they gave him
Happy.
Only after it became obvious that he was winning.
Happy is
But
a
but
strong
also-
word for what the establishment feels towards Trump.
Okay, that's okay. That's a bit strong. But let me put it this way: that the structural nature of American media meant that he got a lot of airtime, like a hell of a lot of airtime. And his own personal brand, which existed before that, people thought they had a large connection to him. Like, that's a huge element to me in the attraction to him. In the UK, you've got Boris Johnson. Boris used to go on to Have I Got News for You, like the premier comedy show, and be a host on it, like back in the 90s and in the 2000s, loads of times. And I didn't know who he was. I found him quite funny. Like, he was genuinely quite a funny guy on it. And that's why he's prime minister, because he had like this jolly hockey sticks funny persona, which he meticulously maintained over a long time. And Trump has the same thing going for him. So I think like there's a lot of differences between comparing Trump to, say, Bernie, but Bernie also got shivved. I think probably he got more shivved than Trump. I just feel like the establishment are more happy with a billionaire, even if he's a bit of a weirdo, than they are
Yeah, sure.
with
but
the leftists.
I'm not sure, because you're right about the way the party is acting, right? You're right about the respective parties, Democrats and Republicans. But about the establishment more generally, that's a harder question. Like, so one of the big reasons that Trump was able to pull through in the 2016 primary is because, as you know, he was humiliating each of the candidates, the evangelical right, which was used to being a power broker in the Reagan coalition, GOP, that had been the previous status quo for decades, decided to back him, right? Whereas in the 2020 Sanders election, or 2020 Democratic primary, right? You have basically the opposite dynamic, where Bernie couldn't really find that power broker in the Democratic Party to back him. And he also wasn't willing to, set the party on fire the way Trump was. I don't know how much of that is structural, how much of it is personal agency. So I can see why you would say that within each of the parties. For the establishment as a whole, it is, I think, less acceptable to be a, kind of an open bigot in some ways than it is to be someone that wants to regulate capitalism, more or less. It's hard to speak about the establishment as a whole. It's kind of a vague term, and like there's a structural bias towards billionaires and that sort of thing. But Trump is not beloved by the establishment. The establishment is glad to see him gone. During the election, every big company used its platform to say, get out and vote, get out and vote, get out and vote. And the underlying assumptions, of course, there being the more people that vote, the less of a chance Trump will win. I don't know, like Microsoft, for instance, was, and I forget exactly the context, but on either the Windows operating system or, it had like a little thing. Hey, make sure you register to vote. I'd never seen that before.
It's all a ruse to get that chip in you. It's like you turn up, it's a fake
Bill Gates
voting
chip.
booth. They
Yeah.
insert the chip. Yeah, microchips.
No, but
Well,
but
also
let's-
the Republican president's the 2020 Trump candidacy got historically low levels of material support from the big bourgeoisie than ever before, because they were dumping so much money into the Biden campaign.
Yeah. And so you really did see this like convergence between, gaslit, like fucking idiot popular front leftists that are like, well, I guess we got to vote for Biden now, and the big bourgeoisie. That's weird.
No, but let's not kid ourselves. Like, the establishment dislike Bernie, and it's obvious and it's clear. But if Bernie had gotten elected, he would have ended up as any other basic European social democrat, and that means capital first, some welfare reform second. I don't think he either was like a very fundamental threat to the system. He was capitalism with like a massage chair. It's nicer, but it's the same.
Larry
But,
David's capitalism.
Well, you know what
Yeah.
you're getting with that, though. And I don't know. In a way, less of a wild card.
Let's bring in Kyle here.
Kyle.
Heyo.
Kyle, we were a few months off. The coup has happened. They have got Mike Pence in there. Article 25 of the Constitution has been invoked. We were close enough.
Is this actually confirmed that the military and Biden and Pence got together and were like, yo, we need to cut this guy out of the equation?
I don't know. We might never even know, but forklift is good. Is forklift gone? Forklift is gone. But apparently, was it E Minor? Who did you say had actually called on them to do the 25th Amendment?
It was the National Association of Manufacturers, and
Yeah.
that's just people calling on Pence to do it. There's no indication yet whether that is being seriously considered, or they're just not pushing back on it because they don't want to stake a position on that yet.
But it is clear that the military brought in the National Guard outside of Trump's orders, right?
Yeah, probably
So
in connection with Pence as well, but it was definitely the Joint Chiefs who made that call.
Yeah, so that was like a subversion of like chain of command, right?
That's the second one. There was one in the summer where the chief said, "No, you're all right," and this seems like it could be a second one. Also, from Twitter, about 20 minutes ago or something, they've announced that they are removing 3 of Donald Trump's tweets, and also saying future violations of the Twitter rules will result in permanent suspension of the real Donald Trump account. So that's quite a big thing for one of them to do.
They're covering their ass.
Yeah.
So if you go by John Stuart Mill rules, right, the free speech guy that everybody thumps, the free speech stops at incitement, where you're kind of goading on violence. Okay. Spreading misinformation doesn't count, but violence does. If you use that metric, there were a couple quotes, there are a couple tweets from Trump that incited violence against Black Lives Matter and Antifa, by name, that didn't get this sort of response. And of course, famously, Trump built his entire brand on Twitter. And this is a bit too little, too late. I mean, it is rather strong now. You know, when Trump issued his, you know, y'all very special people. Nothing in the world has been as terrible as, you know, them taking away the presidency from us. We all know it's a landslide, but it was like a peace sandwich. Like, you know, you got to go home though. Everybody go home. We got to do this peacefully. Also, it's very terrible that, you know, we've had this taken from us. Like that tweet where he was counter inciting was the one where they introduced some of the most serious locks because the false information, they said, could lead to violence.
But Esri, it's like with Twitter or any of these. Of course, they'll let the other ones go. It's only when
right,
it's a threat to actual established order or something that it will become a thing.
No.
You know, so it's like
that makes sense. It's just, you know, using the John Stuart Mill test or something. It's how do you put this? It's like the Bechdel test for you know, incitement, right? That's all. Like
what's the Bechdel test?
Okay, the Bechdel test is it's a piece of media criticism that is the most bare bones feminist test of a piece of media.
Oh, how many they talk to men? Just what I'm doing now. I'm interrupting you because you're a woman. I'm going to interrupt now.
Yeah.
Sorry, joking.
A big post irony. You're not interrupting me. So the Bechdel test, again, is two named women characters talking to each other about something that isn't a man. You know, it's designed to be the lowest bar possible. So using this, you know, John Stuart Mill Bechdel test, like Twitter fails. And Twitter has to cover their ass now because they, you know, provided a platform for this guy. So I'm you know, wow, it's pretty strong now. But yeah, no shit. The damage is done, Twitter. Like
I mean, the damage was done back in 2015, 2016.
Yeah, they didn't have a, you know, this tweet is actually not true when Trump was tweeting about Obama's birth certificates or something.
That's what Glenn Greenwald is for. Kyle,
yes.
Give us some more analysis here.
Oh boy. Well, I've been out for a walk, so I don't know if I'm up on the latest stuff. I don't know. I haven't been in the conversation so far, but I just feel like, you know, generally speaking, in the most technical and narrow sense possible, the 18th mayor of Joe Biden is on course to happen.
You said it, Kyle. You said it.
Round of applause.
Oh, hey, speaking of which, so is this the first salvo in the year of 4 presidents?
Well, yeah, I mean, very potentially, right? We get Trump, we get Pence, get Joe Biden, who tragically dies of some kind of, you know,
arrow to the head,
grope-based transmitted infection, which leads to President Harris.
Oh my god! What were the chances? I wonder what odds you would got on 4 U.S. presidents in the 1 year, and the final winner being Kamala Harris this time last year. Them be good odds.
Oh man, that would be, I don't know. I guess Harris is the black cop president that, you know, woke America deserves. Like
that laugh. She has got a world-class laugh. I want somebody to do a compilation when we get more airtime of her, like if she becomes vice president. Like I want a 1 hour like YouTube video that you can put on infinite loop. You know, there's like sometimes people have like there's that song by I have to find the song, but it's like they have 24-hour just loop versions of it. You can just listen to it like all
I'm
day.
familiar.
I like that. I want one of those with Kamala laughing. She's got the best laugh I've ever heard.
Yeah. So maybe we could go to the sort of weird like narrative of the inciting incident. Something like Pence was sort of overseeing the delegate, you know, allocation for the, you know, final tallies for the election or something to this degree.
Certifying the Electoral College's report.
Yeah.
Right. In my understanding, the vice president is supposed to be something of a master of ceremonies and not exactly someone who, you know, electoral college like controls, you know, whether like can just say, nope, that vote is this way. And the idea was based on a Trump tweet that I read, which is, again, in good Baudrillard journalistic fashion, all you really need to know. Like, the idea was that Trump was turning against Pence for not wielding his power to prevent this. And that's why there needed to be some kind of response. Do I have this right, narratively?
Yeah, more or less.
Give me the more or less.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the sort of like bare bones story of it. You also have the fact that a lot of these guys are turning on, like the Q cultists and Proud Boys, and these are turning on Mitch McConnell for not being supportive enough of the president's efforts to overturn the election. You know, he recently came out and said that that if Trump wanted to secure this election basically for himself, he should have put forward legal arguments to the Supreme Court that weren't like fucking amateur hour. You know, he's been pretty vocal about like he's not going to use his power in the Senate to overturn the election because of how much of a shit show the Trump campaign has been in the aftermath of the election. And so that in conjunction with the fact that Pence refused to is essentially refused to side with Trump is really what got these people out onto the street. And you know, they had already been planning this this rally at Capitol Hill. This was just like the final spark that got them to actually do something stupid.
Yeah, that rally was planned in advance and like was explicitly like calling out like the Proud Boys and stuff to come out. It was going to get wild and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then there
and
were like
apparently
multiple other Republican politicians calling for like total war and combat and all these other kinds of inflammatory terms leading up to this crap.
yeah, and apparently a recently elected GOP congressional representative like came out and as she was speaking actually quoted Hitler saying that he got something right in in the fact that the future of the country lies in the hands or lies with basically who controls the children. So
Yeah, like the Hitler Jungen logic. It was a extremely bad take on her part, I think we could say, because there's like literally a million other people you could quote to the same effect.
No. Let's go with the famous guy. You know, what's his face?
Mustache man.
Yeah.
Not that one. The other one.
No, the other one. Yeah.
Little Doffy.
Smaller mustache, a little more minimalist, more tasteful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Mr. Wolf, as he liked women to call him.
Mr. Wolf.
Yeah, it was Hitler's like preferred name when he was talking with women.
well, it was his
Which is-
persona.
He's a furry.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
You're telling me this is a hell of a. I was today years old when I found this out. This is a hell of a time to find this.
No, it's really
I
funny.
picked the wrong time to stop smoking weed. I keep saying.
And he was a real character. He used to walk around with a dog whip for fighting in his early years.
Okay.
Calling Hitler a real character is a bit of a take.
Real character.
Oh.
Forklift.
So that's why they call it the Wolf Slayer, or right?
Yes,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
Oh wow.
That was his Eastern Front military headquarters.
Oh.
But he had the Eagle's Lair or whatever. But he did have the Wolf's Lair, so yeah.
Yeah,
Did-
but everything is incredibly corny. And
Wait a
the more
minute.
you read about the Nazi, the more corny it gets.
So Hitler had a fursona, but there's another persona. Did he have headmates that had fursona? But there's another fursona. Did he have headmates that had fursonas? Is Hitler like, Tumblr gone wrong? I'm just hit me. Just giving me straight to the veins. We've already gone this far.
I think
another
the wolf thing was like the main thing.
Right, but
I
evil
haven't
was the
heard about
Nazi
it.
mascot.
Well, my mate was in Brazil a good few times, and he keeps on trying to find Hitler. It's true. He goes like all these like dodgy German places in Brazil and Argentina, and like tries to find Hitler.
I have a friend who's whiter than I am, who was born in Argentina, and I was asking her about it, and she's like, "Yeah, my grandparents came over in like the late 40s or 50s or something like that." And I just kind of looked at her and went, "You know what that means, right?"
Oh no.
Did I tell you the time I was in Venezuela and we were looking for a place to stay, and it was like myself and there's five Irish people, and one of the guys, it was his turn to go in and check out his place, and he came back and he's like, "My God," he says, "this place is amazing. It's like it's amazing villa. Like it was the nicest hotel I ever stayed in my life. It was $8 a night with food and board and bed. Nicest hotel I've ever been in my life. Like it'd be a £400 a night hotel in London at least." And we said, "There's only one thing, just have a look at the floor when you go in." So we're like, okay. So we were like backpackers. We got our backpackers and we walked into this place and we looked down at the floor, and it had like mosaic tile. So it was a big villa with like a courtyard with like tropical plants in the middle that was maybe like 20 meters by 40 meters long, and then rooms all the way around it. And so there was this massive mosaic tile all the way around, and like it was wall to wall swastikas. And the guy who was running the place, no shitting you, was he was actually an Italian speaking. A German-speaking Italian.
Oh,
and, he was
okay.
like, so we were asking him, "What's the story with these with the swastikas?" And he was like, "Yeah, I don't know." He says, "I've just been doing up the place. These are original tiles. I haven't changed them." We're like, "All right, man."
Wow.
Nicest hotel I ever stayed in, I must say.
Even with the swastikas?
I tell you, but like in fairness,
that didn't disturb you and unsettle you a little bit?
It was fucking mad,
Knock it
especially with
down
the
a
guy.
little.
The guy had this like real, strong German accent, like, and he was a chef. He used to cook dinner for us. We were a bit sketched about the first dinner we were getting, I must admit. It was like something from a film, where it's, "Oh yeah, this amazing villa is like $8 a night, and there's a German Nazi chef, and he's like going to chop you up and put you into the food."
Oh, God.
But like, yeah, no. But in fairness, most of the swastikas were backwards swastikas, but about 1 in 10 was a forward swastika. So it was like a mix.
Right.
Yeah, it was very weird.
Buddhist, Nazi, Buddhist.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there anything we haven't covered? Because it's getting late here. It's like 12:30 at night. I know Forklift. You're mostly 1:30 there. Are you up? Are you up in the morning?
2:30.
2:30. Is it 2 hours? I didn't know you were 2 hours behind. I thought you were only 1.
Yeah, it's 1:35.
Yeah. Oh no, 2:30. Yeah. So you say it the wrong way. You say it the German way. Yeah. That's so it's really only half 1.
But I start at work at 6:30 tomorrow.
Oh fuck that!
Oh, damn.
God damn it!
But I'm already drunk, so whatever. I'll call in 6. I have symptoms or whatever.
Oh, good. Has anybody got anything else to say? I don't think Derek's coming on by the looks of things.
We're getting corrections in the chat that Buddhists and Jains both use swastikas in both directions. So
somebody's here. I'm going to remove Forklift from the chat for a minute and see. There's somebody else trying to get on. See if I can add them. I don't know if my browser. Let me check here.
Respect to Forklift.
Oh, here is Derek. Speak of the man himself.
Hello.
Au de contraire. Or au contraire. I don't speak French.
Yeah, speaking of Nazis and Hitler, by the way. So, Varn, what do you think about Biden?
Yeah. Derek,
Nazis, Hitler, Biden. I mean, we had our Bill Harp. How do you pick a side when both sides suck so much? But anyway,
mutual annihilation. Derek, so is Trump on the plane to Brazil? Is that the story? Yeah.
Who knows? His Twitter account is frozen. There were rumors that Pence had activated the armies. Now that seems to have been dispelled. Although the Joint Chiefs of Staff did originally say that they activated it on their own accord at the request of the DC mayor the prior day, which is weird that they waited so long. It seems like they were held up by the DOJ. A woman has died. She got shot by the police when they get in.
Right.
Good Lord, who knows? So what? So, I mean, I know we have a lot of people not from the States watching the degeneration of our Republican empire, but I think Joe Biden is like a chicken wing, and that is where I'm going to stop it.
Joe Biden's delicious. Are you saying that we should eat the rich?
No, Derek is fellatio on that, as far as I could make out. Is that what's happening?
Sure.
Oh dear.
I'm not gonna tell you to try it. All right.
There was a picture. Somebody tweeted it earlier today. I don't know if they saw it. It was like talking about the British press, and they had like some guy on a train, and he must have been like involved in some kind of S&M thing, but he had some woman's boot, and he was licking all the like the soil or the sole of the boot, and he was doing it like for about 2 minutes. It was very disturbing. I don't know, what am I talking about? Anybody know? It's very late here. I'm
You're talking about authoritarianism.
Oh, that's it. That's it. But like here, seriously, like he's gone against, like, Trump is like, weirdly, I thought he would back that. I'm surprised that it's happened like this, and I'm surprised that he's like he's not completely backing down even yet. Like, it is a little bit strange because, Derek, you say you're going to like kick him out of the country or put him into prison, right? I
said that, like, I don't know that that's true, but I don't see how Biden can just let it slide anymore. The fucking the National Association of Manufacturers are calling for the invocation of the 25th Amendment now. Like, that's the bourgeoisie calling. It is spicy teriyaki sauce. That's all.
All right. The chat has spoken. Derek has spoken. We know what sauce is on the wings. Now we can move on to the less important stuff. What were you saying, Derek?
But I don't see how Biden can just play the national healing routine anymore. I mean, even though it's a farce that obviously the GOP couldn't control. They thought they could, clearly. That's why they had the DOJ not send the National Guard out to have the kind of response and force they had for the BLM protesters, and they cannot. And now it's really out of hand. And you've already seen every liberal newspaper in the country call for the invocation of the Fifth Amendment or for impeachment, even though there's only 2 weeks left. You've seen what's her name, Corey, a congressperson calling for with a bill for the expulsion of all the Congress members who called for Cory Bush calling for the expulsion of all the Congress members who backed the alternate elector scheme. And you've also seen the GOP back down on that within an hour, and Pelosi saying she's going to finish this tonight. I mean, it's kind of crazy.
She's going to finish what tonight, Derek?
They're gonna certify the election tonight.
Well, look, you'd expect they would, wouldn't you? They're not going to back down on that. They can't back down on that.
Yeah, they have to certify at this point. I mean, because
they managed to get the ballots out of the room when they were all running.
Yeah.
It's so pathetic. What a shit show, man. What a shit show.
And I feel bad for all those protesters in a way because they all showed their face. They're screwed.
Yeah, they're all fucked.
I don't feel sorry for them. Why would you feel sorry for them?
I don't feel sorry for them. I mean,
Jesus.
life's going to be bad for them, but
Like, I feel sorry for the ones that have actually mental health, like, are actually not all there. Like, I can feel sorry for somebody if they've got schizophrenia or something.
yeah.
Like, but the rest of them, I don't feel sorry for. Not a jot.
I mean, I don't really feel anything for the woman who got plugged. I can't find myself caring. But I think the real like thing to look about with this is to go back to something you were saying earlier, Tom, is that, you know, what's happening, like what happened today is a much shorter lived flash in the pan than BLM was. But ultimately, like, this is really a flash in the pan in the same way, but I think it does speak to nice. That's a good resignation, really affecting things right there. Rats escaping the sinking ship. But I think it really does speak to the fact that the actual legitimacy of the American national government is being called into question from both the right and the left. And I think the most that we see out of this right now, like given the level of organization that's on both sides, which is to say, like, basically no organization, is that we get, you know, the farce of the years of lead, like was mentioned in the Discord. You know,
the years of lead. I don't know. What is this reference?
It's like the Troubles, but in Latin America. So no side could ever, in Italy too. I think they've heard of. No side could really do anything. So their way of forming stasis was small scale terrorism and assassinations, which, I mean, to be fair, the days of rage in America was like that, except the left was very bad at killing people. They mostly just blew themselves up. And the right actually was fairly good at killing people. They mostly blew other people up. But, you know.
So it's like the strategy attention shit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I mean, I think we forget how violent that even the 1970s were. I mean, in regards to this, in some ways, this isn't new. We just had a reprieve from this during, you know, from Carter forward.
Are we going to see some like government ministers go into space, a la like the French or the Spanish? Was it the Spanish president? Did anybody know that one? That the French,
yeah, the guy who got his car blown up and got launched over a building.
The first Spanish astronaut.
Yeah. The woman, she got fined. She got like nearly prison time over that tweet. The person who made that joke.
Wow.
So well, I mean, we had what, Gabby Gifford and that GOP at, what was it, a congressional softball game. Like, these things haven't exactly gone away.
There was a UK Labour MP who got shot and killed about 4 or 5 years ago as well.
Yeah, I want to. So, how many times have we had this kind of storming into the White House and such, or the Capitol building rather? Like, I haven't. I just
historically in America.
Yeah,
I believe the only time that was similar was under Jackson's presidency, right?
Yeah,
they set up in all the sort of halls of power, like all the yokels came in, and people in DC were very upset about it.
Yeah, so there is something historically, you know, kind of unique about this situation. And if you're like pro-revolutionary communist, I'm not saying you have to feel bad for a reactionary that gets plugged, or, you know, that you need to extend your moral humanism to feel bad for everyone that got tear gassed, you know. But there is a bit of a there, but for the grace of God go I.
There, but for success go we.
Yeah, like right, yeah.
Well,
like,
this is not success.
Come on. If we ever had the kind of coherence that those forces did, And think about what I'm saying here.
Are
I'm
we-
making relative claims.
Are you-
I'm not making an absolute claim about the coherence of them. But if leftist pro-revolutionaries had the level of coherence of the people that stormed the Capitol today, what would happen to us?
They would be
I mean, we'd have been mowed down, but I mean,
yeah. I mean,
Like-
that's why so many people are upset, right? Is they're like, if that was us, we wouldn't have made it 5 feet. You know?
But this is where the Palace injury I was talking about earlier really matters, because the DOJ suppressed the ability for the National Guard to go in, and the cops both really were outnumbered.
Yes, absolutely.
And I mean, even though there wasn't that many people there, they really were outnumbered, and they were underarmed. While we didn't see any arms brandished by the people today, which is actually, I guess, because they knew they could have been arrested under Washington law, they almost certainly had them, or at least people were afraid that they did. I mean, you go into the Capitol Rotunda, the Secret Service pretty much regularly has snipers there. Am I wrong? Because they're pretty much everywhere else. So, like in certain degree, it was allowed, and in another degree, it was set up to be allowed. The fact that they waited so long to bring the National Guard in indicates that they thought that this would be, that they wouldn't go as far as they did. You know, that they would get up on the steps, wave some stuff around, everything would continue as normal. They didn't expect them to break the windows, and they didn't expect them to get into the Senate, and House chambers.
So this is a mirror universe version of like, oh, let's have a protest outside, and Antifa comes and smashes the shit out of the windows, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's I mean, kind of, but it's really more a case of like this is just another step along the path of, you know, Rove, Bush, and Cheney losing control of the beast that they created. You know.
Go on.
Well, so in the aftermath of the Clinton administration, you had people like Cheney and Karl Rove, especially, setting up the along with a lot of like talk radio hosts, basically setting up the kind of base for the Republican Party that was increasingly white, increasingly old, increasingly reactionary. You know, getting them behind the GOP on contentious social issues, and that setting themselves up with that base of support was how they were able to maintain the kind of levels of power that they had for what everybody else was saying was longer than the demographics would support. But in doing so, they basically like created, helped to foster an incredibly reactionary environment that they basically lost control of in the 2016 election.
Well, I would even go deeper than that. Actually, I would say that this flirtation with stuff like the militia movement goes all the way back to Nixon. And definitely was accelerated under Reagan. But they all,
the Reagan coalition.
part of how this was always working is they could control it. I mean, I hate to make an analogy to the worst part of unionism, but like the power that a lot of unions bureaucracy has been able to wage is not just that the union can strike, but they control how and when they strike. And that's the kind of relationship that the Republicans thought they had with these yahoos. And they don't. Like, they're not like I kind of think they thought they were control opposition, and then there was pipe bombs in RNC headquarters.
Right. Yeah. And I think the first big example of that is the sort of Tea Party revolution that ousted tons of Republicans in primaries and took over their seats, and really forced the GOP to reckon with the fact that they had become a solidly, overtly reactionary party. And in order to maintain their power, they had to keep going with that because they didn't have a base of support that could support them outside of it anymore.
So we have this, like, Republicans way moved to the right, and we have the Democrats moving all the way into the Republican sphere, and we have all of this open space. Like it's not going. It's not going to like it inevitably will be filled by something, whether it's either of them two other parties repositioning themselves on this crude spectrum or whatever. Like,
well,
what
the DSA keeps it loyal, and I mean, you know,
for now,
what? I mean, yeah, for everything.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, do people see? Like, I don't see. I don't know. Like, I'm extremely skeptical about the long-term viability of something like the DSA having that function or having any importance.
Oh, I actually am too. I mean, like the fact that some Gen X comedian like Jim Dore could actually mess up their day so much just by quoting their own documents at them.
Absolutely.
I mean, whatever you feel about Dore, he's able to do it, and it's kind
Jimmy
of
Dore, master of imminent critique. You know,
seriously, no, Jimmy Dore is in there, and he's fucked their shit up, and he's exposed a whole load of them, right? And like, it's ironic, like with all the, you know, all our shit talking, and we're all commie podcasts and all that, blah blah blah. Look who actually did it in America. It's like somebody who's probably Green Party independent kind of figure. That's, I think, that's more of what is likely to be something that formulates a left type thing in America than our commie shit at this moment.
So some stand-up comic that, you know, 20 years ago was doing bits on Late Night Comedy Central about how he likes it raw, like that guy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, checks out.
That's how like Joe Rogan became this, like the where you go as for a center rightist to same thing. But I mean,
the arbiter of truth.
But also our media figures, not all of them, but a lot of them. I mean, I wrote something about it yesterday. Tom shared it. Are the same fucking people, even on the far left. Like they are people who come out of media studies. A lot of them are Ivy Leaguers. A lot of them came out of Gawker and Associated Properties before they were ever associated with the left. I'm not naming names, but you know who I'm talking about. And like,
they're just sockdens. They're fucking careerist podcasters.
Yeah, but even
Tom, it goes a lot farther than that.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, like the same group of people produce people like, I'm not going to say your boy, but your boy over there at TrueAnon, Brace. I mean, like who also comes from money, also had access, except he went into the PSL and not the DSA. But it's still the same sort of shit.
Yeah, I'm not going to doubt any of that. Like, I definitely think, you know, we don't have, like, literally the left media we have, like, systemically, capitalism will have its radical media to, you know, in place. You know, that's what Jacobin is. That's what all these things. Why are Jacobin sockdems? Why aren't they radical communists? You know, why do they think Bernie is a revolution? Why is all this stuff? Like, why are half the podcasts, like these big left establishment podcasts, don't mention anything about the squad and this vote thing, or do talk about it in bullshit terms? Yeah, like, regardless of whether the Jimmy Dore angle thing would actually work, the thing is, it's exposed the fucking grift of these, and you know, it's the same in the UK media scene. You've got your Novara media. They're all establishment fucking they're not proper, you know, they're not leading no revolution, man. Like, and we have to create our own media space, and that's just the level of non-existence of communists or revolutionary socialists in the West.
Well, there's a basic denial, though, of like stuff like power law when it comes to our own media space. I mean, Tom, you and I have been at this for a long time. Like, we predate these people by half a decade, and we saw them come in out of nowhere and able to like pull in grassroots, and I'm putting it in quotation marks, but I think it was real in some degree because they had the capital to invest to build the grassroots to the beginning, whereas we, being lowly plebs as we are, had to build it very slowly, very patiently off of word of mouth. And also we never had the access in the same way. Like, Even now that I work for Zero Books, it's and even academic leftists will talk to almost anybody. By the way, I mean, like, seriously, it's not that hard. But finding out how to contact them often is. So that we need our own media space becomes immediately like, yeah, but as people get pushed out of the conventional media space, all right. So what happens? So people like Jink Uger and Anna Kaspasian and I should be somewhat nice because apparently she follows me on Twitter now, but whatever. Got, tried to get into the MSC world, the MSNBC world. They were even allowed to briefly, but they couldn't. All right. And you have an increasing cycles of radical left. And I mean, some of these people do, I think, have some pretty adjacent to us personal beliefs. But they suppress them to maintain an audience. I mean, like when you look at Matt Christman, for example, Matt Christman seems like he's brought the back pill, but we've kind of all known, if we listen to what he said, he was probably the person sneaking left com stuff into their books for a long time. But he had to have an audience. He had to get people to listen to him. And I think he actually did believe the Bernie thing. And to some degree, we all kind of did. Like, we kind of thought Bernie could wag the dog somehow. And, some of us doubted it. I doubted it. But, people just threw it at me that it was the thing we had to do for so long. I was like, fine, try it, whatever.
But yeah, I've been listening to quite a lot of the Chapo stuff, and I think someone like Matt Christman, his real stuff slips in quite a lot in his live streams when he's just talking the shit, right? And he'll say stuff, and he'll talk about how our fight is over distribution. Right? If anybody ever talks about the fight is over distribution, they're your class enemy. That's just, the fight's not over distribution, it's over control, and it's over production, and it's not over distribution. That means you're Weber and you're not Marx, right? And, I can't believe that any of these people, like Matt Christman is the best of them, but they're the same people who are on Chapo yesterday or today or whatever, and they're talking about how they think Andrew Yang's probably a genuine guy. Give me a fucking break. You look at what the establishment did to Bernie. They ran Andrew Yang as a cool libertarian guy against him. They ran Marianne Williams as a kind of like a spooky left one to cut him up. Who did they put on his right? They put who else was there? Oh, Tulsi Gabbard to the right wing anti-imperialists, and they just sliced and diced them as much as they could. And you can't tell me, at least Marianne Williamson or whatever, she's the only one that you could actually think may have actually, she actually declared for Bernie. The other ones just fucking did fuck all, undermined them. Elizabeth Warren for the science fucking PMC fucking social democrats, they just slice and dice them, and it's all been put out there, right? And I don't think these people can be taken seriously as any type of comrades. I think the Jimmy Dore stuff is fucking brilliant because he's exposing the whole shower of them. I just think it's fantastic.
As the chat is pointing out, who does Jimmy Dore put forward as an alternative?
Chris Hedges. That's who he's putting forward. Literally, the People's Party of Chris Hedges and fucking what's the dude from what's the guy who was in The Matrix? On the council,
Cypher? Are you talking about Cypher, the guy at
no,
Comrades
the
for
black
State
civil rights guy? He's a professor in Yale or something. What's his name? Come on now.
In The Matrix?
People don't know that he is in The Matrix, so people probably don't know that. It's probably an obscure.
Cornel West.
Yes, Cornel West is in The Matrix.
Cornel West was in The Matrix.
Cornel West is it? Yeah. Yes, he is in The Matrix.
Yeah.
Cornel West was also yes. He's in The Matrix.
I didn't know Cornel West was in The Matrix.
It's The Matrix 2, in fairness. I think it's either 2 or 3.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
That's when the Wachowskis were sneaking in their lefty overlords, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But go ahead, Esri.
No, just in the beginning, Neo's software is in a Baudrillard book. Anyway, that's my third Baudrillard reference. I'm cut off.
Yeah.
Well, no, but I mean, you have to look at you have to look at why these sock dem grifters are the main media figures, and it's the same it's the same reason that forms the large part of why the DSA basically became the clearinghouse for leftist, like actual leftist politics, over like something like the Wobblies. Like the IWW had a lot of structural issues, but those could have been overcome essentially if enough people were banging down their door. But
although it really was hard to join. I just want to
it really was. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. That there's a lot of structural issues. I had a hard time like joining the IWW, and I'm in the North Bay area. But the reason why the DSA sort of became the big left organization is because like the vast majority of the people who were going into it, were themselves like social, like maybe radical social democrats, but still social democrats, and the DSA has been for the longest time touting this inside outside strategy where they're nominally sort of like aligned with and inside the Democratic Party, but they also have like this pretension to like outside power bases that they're trying to build, and that's the reason why, because people just didn't want to let go of the idea that there was a possibility of using the Democratic Party to push like socialistic policies on the national government.
Well, there's also this weird shadow side to the DSA that, maybe we should learn from and maybe compare it to what we see with these Righto grifters. Is the DSA has a hyper localist, hyper radical like allowance in its locals that is totally unrepresented in its national. And they encourage
my
it.
local is almost entirely anarchist, for example.
Right. A lot of them, some of them are anarchists. There's some of them are completely controlled by MLs. There's the whole fact that the IMT is trying to do what the DSA was trying to do to the Democratic Party. I mean, and yet I just want to point this out. Like I saw this mentioned in a tweet, but I confirmed it. The Communist Party of Japan, which is tiny, is 4 times larger than the DSA. The Raelians in 2004 are 3 times larger than the United. I don't know if they still are, but in 2004 they were 3 times larger than the DSA. The fucking Raelians.
I was very interested in joining the Raelians when I first came across them. They had money in Dublin. They were out every Saturday on O'Connell Street trying to get people to join the fucking Raelians. I was like,
great. There's
bring it to me. I was like, yes, finally.
There's lots of great.
The Raelians are the closest to the Posadist, new future that we need. If we can't join Starfleet, you might as well join the Raelians. They have replicators. They can do matter recombination. It's in the lore.
Replicators, cloning, and lots of free sex. I do get why it was so large for a brief period of time.
Yeah, you can't get that at the DSA potluck. At least not the replicators.
Right, but that's the social base that the DSA is pulling from, and I've been like slowly stepping myself out of the DSA for a while. I am basically not in it anymore, but like right now, there's a huge push to make a hard break with the Democratic Party, and it's only been growing steam since the last convention. But if the DSA ever like actually did that, if the DSA ever actually formally pulled ties with the Democratic Party, it would destroy itself.
Yeah,
there would not be a DSA left. It would
reason for being
fracture along all of those lines in the big tent that are basically bringing people together who share basically no political political similarities.
Yeah, it's literally a place for recruitment for sects on some level and influence. And if it was to disassemble itself from the Democratic Party, it would lose a whole influx of people, and then you'd just be left with 5 weird Leninists, 3 Stalinists, and fucking X to the N fucking anarchist cliques, and they would all just go. Yeah, and the only thing that binds them together is this kind of idea of making an effect in the world, no matter how bad that idea is, through the Democratic Party. That's the only thing. But like, I do think that's a learning for like general commies, is that like if things start getting in any way close to real, people will actually come together and put like the actual chance of something real ahead of internal petty squabbles. And that's about all we're going to learn from the DSA.
But unfortunately, that's also what we're learning from the people who stormed the White House today, because like they're not a coherent mash of ideologies either. I mean, like that's one of the, like, as a person who used to know some of the people who would have been, you know, the ideological thought leaders of some of these weird grifters. And believe me, you know, I talk about a lumpen problem. I mean, basically that group is lumpen and petite bourgeoisie, and that's it. But like, in a real sense, that's what's holding it together. I mean, you have people who for 1 minute are libertarians and the next minute are talking about making Trump God King on Twitter, and they're not even joking anymore.
Libertarian hangout.
It is a strange thing. And while this is truly like an unfortunately uncontrolled and moderately successful form of LARPing that will breed more uncontrolled and moderately successful forms of LARPing, I mean, one person is dead. Okay, that's it. That's actually kind of surprisingly low.
It is surprising.
I'm not surprised. I'm surprised anybody is dead.
Well, I mean, because what happened with that woman got shot, it looks like, looking at the theaters, is no one expected them to breach the the congressional room, and then the cops had to actually respond, and they opened fire. Like, that's what it looks like. They shot one person. They shot the person who went through the woman whose hand went through the window, and she's dead. But we know these people like to play with guns. I've seen them play with guns. I live in Utah. That, like, the fact that it went the way it did is something else. I mean, the fact that Trump's Twitter is suspended, the fact that there's a big congressional, that the Republicans are now dropping their bullshit, because I think they're now afraid that they played that their whole, like, well, we can keep these weird wackadoos in our coalition and there will be no cost for it, is gonna, has gone a certain way. But I want to say something about to the left on this, though. The Democrats have probably also learned that same lesson. They always kind of have, but like, they have been willing to be soft on stuff like Portland for a while, as long as it was politically advantageous to them. And I don't think that's going to continue. I've not thought it before. I almost for sure think it now.
They could do it when there's a Republican in the White House, right? Because the Democrats get to play opposition. Here's my CPUSA talking point, okay? It's easier to separate, the official left from the, I actually think the ruling party is bad left, when the ruling party is the Democrats. Because when you have Republicans, when you have Republicans in power, the Democrats can play opposition and can play social movements up as if, hey, we're on your side. We're all friends here. Now, of course, there's a parallel move that the Democrats can make when, they're in power and whatever. I'm not saying that that's the silver bullet and we should all be electing Democrats because it makes the lines clearer or something. But it is, it is a dynamic we should be aware of. So if what Derek is saying, I think is correct. When somebody tries to do Portland again because they're outraged that, Black people are still being shot dead in the streets, President Law and Order will probably respond much differently.
President shoot him in the legs.
What do people think? Like, what's the
there's arteries in the legs.
What's the chances that Biden actually and the establishment, due to like the Trumpist kind of whatever these forces are made up of, what they did with the Klan? Like, will they actually crack down on these right-wing elements.
I mean, yes, I think they're afraid of a repeat of the Janet Reno situation. But if that, and to be fair, we don't want that either. I mean, this is one of the things where like we have to be very careful in cheerleading the centralized state on totally cracking down on these people off of a kind of Smithian logic, because I promise you it'll be used on us, and I also promise you it'll make them stronger because this is already part of their fucking narrative.
Yeah, the House of Un-American Activity Committee was set up to root out Nazi infiltrators, right? Like, no matter what it is, if the state creates this, counterinsurgent apparatus, it's going to end up with its barrel pointed at our faces.
Well, yeah, and the Patriot Act is nominally to defend against foreign Islamic terrorism, but all of the mechanisms that were in the Patriot Act were essentially written in the 90s to counter the quote unquote eco-terrorist movement, and they just couldn't get it passed then because they didn't have the political support to do it. Hey, Jake.
Hey, what's up?
Hey.
Oh, hey.
Did they do it? Did they stop the steal yet?
Stop the steal. Stop the steal. Jake,
I'm not president yet.
Have you got a gun, Jake? Are you heading to the Capitol?
I'm already in the Capitol, actually. I'm under Nancy Pelosi's desk right now.
Are you involved in some kind of something with Nancy Pelosi you'd like to tell us?
No, I can't say much right now. All I can say though is that she does have a copy of like the latest Harry Potter book, the stage play one, but it's not open. So I think these people are full of shit. So
wait, are you the one who's mixing some fire beats on Pelosi's computer right now?
No, I'm pretty sure he's drawing wolf art on Nancy's computer with a tablet.
Yeah.
Is that right? You got some
Yeah,
furry.
something like that.
It's for Swamp Side, $10 a month and up. We'll be getting Jake's furry art drawn on Nancy Pelosi's computer.
So that is
yeah.
Go ahead.
Fact check: House of Un-American Activities Committee was created to root out Bolshevik elements, but also during its real ascendancy during the 30s was big on the fascist plot to seize the White House. Anyway.
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, there's this weird kind of thing that happens where people are like, the point they try and make is, if this happened to the left, if the left was trying to do something like this, way more people would be dead, or they'll point out how when BLM was protesting in the summer, they had all of these, cops decked out in like military grade riot gear, and stuff like that. But, because of like the political spectrum that exists, there's people who flip that and are like, why haven't the cops come out to beat these people? Like we need the state crackdown, It's hard to make the sensible former argument without triggering the latter argument as a thing,
Right.
And so that keeps people in the tent, and it keeps people like in the statist mindset, because it is weird like how few cops were actually there,
hardly
around the
any.
congressional building when this was happening. I mean, it's not weird, but it's it's very telling.
Right. Well, I mean, like, I think you're completely right there, Jake, and to go even further with that, like, I don't know. I keep on seeing, like, I saw a lot of red flower Twitter calling everybody terrorists today, and that makes me worried. I mean, and the invocation of sedition laws makes me worried, and the calls for the 25th Amendment stuff may be even more justifiable, but it makes me worried. For one, is it totally you are literally giving these people the bait that they want to start further radicalization. And I mean, I don't want to sound like a conservative, but if they weren't all out of shape and, but frankly, they're in better shape than a lot of we are. That
Speak for yourself.
They would have, I don't know, they could have been a real threat, particularly if the government doesn't take them that seriously. I think they may take them seriously in the future, but like,
I mean, but the thing is, there was no plan on the other end. You know, like Trump basically just, with zero thought into this, just kind of threw things up in the air and decided to see how it would shake out. You know, but without anything on the happening behind the scenes in the back end, none of this was going to be anything. You know,
right?
Like, this
You're
isn't
totally
that
right about
dissimilar
that.
from how they decided to handle BLM in the summer, because the early parts they cracked down on the riots and saw that made it worse. So what they decided to do was allow people to just kind of march around in circles for a while until they got tired, and then just pick off the stragglers, which is probably what they're going to do with this, but at a more extreme level, because you let them into the building.
I mean, that's one of the things that I was seeing people talk to leftists like, this is good police work. I'm like, well, it is actually how you don't escalate. And if you call for escalation all the time, then eventually you will. And I don't mean to say they're more brave than us, because they're not, but they do have more guns than we do. And
yeah, the fact that they're strapped like immediately escalates the situation such that it's much harder for the cops to push back in like a meaningful way. Which is why, and there were also sections that were like, during the Black Lives Matter stuff, like defending businesses with guns, that the cops tended not to touch at all. Because that's a situation that cops don't want to escalate that for sure, because things could go very badly, even if they win in the firefight. Like, you basically like murdered civilians in front of everybody, and that's not a good look.
I love talking to Americans about guns, because they say like strapped and she got plugged and pistol whipped, and European people just go, oh, he was shot with a gun. It's kind of cool.
I mean, you get the same rap music and gangster movies that we get. Like, you could use those words. I have about as much right to use those as you do.
No, but they're not everyday occurrences out there.
No, I just listen to like Riverdance team, just constantly. That's what's in my brain.
Yeah, but that's why so many, and especially anarchists, have been saying that you need to show up strapped to protests. You had like when the lockdown protests were happening, you had people out like Robert Evans who were saying, hey, the reason why the cops are treating these people with kid gloves is not just because they're white, it's because they're armed.
Yeah, it's a little of both, obviously, because there is, there is the whole thing where it's like, like where's Bruce Wayne when Batman's out, or where's Peter Parker when Spider-Man's out, and people are wondering where the cops are when these people were out.
I mean, I agree with that, and they obviously aren't used to. They're not used to dealing in cities, even, and because they don't use block formation, they don't cover their faces, they weren't prepared for tear gas, but they do know how to use guns, and that's. I think some of it, I saw Abraham X. Kendi today. It was like, white people never fear the cops. And then, of course, Anarcho and Trotsky Twitter was like, of course, white anarchists do. And they do. The other thing I think we got to admit, and, I don't want to play into any of these stupid fucking neo post left. Where did they get the post left? Don't insult Bob Black with this shit. But like this post left, AKA Marx, GOP and Marx drag narratives, but like there is a real sense that we're also going to see a lot of the radical identitarian left to use this to just shout out the illegitimacy of any protesters that aren't immediately of a specific identity group.
Well, shit, they already did that during the summer.
I know they did. I saw it
all
here.
the rioting was white people.
I saw it here. I mean, like in Salt Lake, there was a group of people who immediately tried to say the people who tipped over and burned a cop car were all white, and then when they published the photo, that was not true. And then they started calling the POC radicals white adjacent, which was hilarious.
Yeah, when shit like that happens, that's when it gets ugly.
Yeah, as was said on Twitter, everyone knows that there's a distinction between politically black and black, which is one of the most odious but sort of discourse letting the mask slip things that I think I had heard. during the defense of Biden, essentially. And then this was first brought to my attention when Toni Morrison called Bill Clinton the first black president. Yeah, that one didn't age well.
Well, I mean, look at how much left Twitter got up in arms after South Carolina when the local black leadership basically came out, rejected Bernie, and supported Biden. Like, there was a lot of like very thinly veiled racism that happened there. It's like, yeah, the black leadership in South Carolina, mostly like bourgeois and upper class, have some really shitty takes, but hey, maybe don't be racist about that. Like, there are structuralist and materialist reasons to dislike them, but like, keep your shitty bigotry to yourself.
Could you elaborate on that? I don't know a lot about that situation.
So South Carolina was the first really big loss for Bernie Sanders in the 2020 Democratic primary, and a huge part of why most politicos on both sides of this question, both the centrist Democrats and the left, believe that to be the case is because the local black leadership, the black caucus within the Democrats, who really do have kind of, I think Varn, you were talking about earlier that there is the mirror image of the evangelical right within the Democratic Party, and I think that is in very large part the black caucus.
Yeah, which is over 40. I mean, but yeah, I mean, like, that's another thing that people missed is the age of that group. But and they're well off, and they're mostly female. They're not men. And they literally inherited the machines of the Dixiecrats and how they maintain those machines. And I don't mean to because I agree with you, there's a lot of racist narratives that came out of this. But how they maintained those machines was making deals with the GOP to keep progressive districts black at the expense of expanding progressive representation. And that was outed by ProPublica. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's known. That was true in Georgia. That was true in South Carolina. It's true in North Carolina. The reason for that, though, and here I'm going to sound a little bit weird. I want to defend that a little bit. Like, they were swayed of being swamped out by moderate Democrats, by white progressives, because they needed a lot of swing votes from the suburban types, which is, by the way, how Biden and Ossoff and whatnot won. So they weren't being stupid. It was just a short-term instrumentalized rationale based on a political machine they inherited from segregationists, and they literally inherited it. Because when these in the aughts and in the 90s, when the Republicans started winning in the South, the same elected officials didn't give up their seats. They just changed their representation from D to R, and thus leaving the political machines associated with the Democrats wide open. And the Black Congressional Caucus was the only person there that had any establishment to assume control of it. And in some ways, that's fair. I mean, right? They should have been in control of it from a long time ago. They should be control of the Republican ones because they were really, after Reconstruction, who set that up. But still, and what you heard in a lot of left Twitter was that the black vote did this, which that's not really fair. It doesn't understand the history of the region, and it wasn't even consistently the black vote. It was a black vote over 40 or over 35, I think. But, and people who were in control of the political machines who could get out the vote in these communities where participations in primaries are pretty low.
I have to say, one of the good things about this happening today was online this morning, everything I was seeing was yes, Stacey Abrams queen. Yes, we did. Blah blah blah. And so it's Like I needed some good like collapsed civilization stuff to like wash the taste of that out of my mouth because like
Yeah.
I don't want to be living with that. I want that if we could just wash that out of the news cycle and like minimize her being a thing in the future, that would be great. Thank you.
We want some like
Yeah.
so Professor Joseph Tainter and his Collapse of Ancient Civilizations playing in the background when any time Biden speaks. That's what I'm looking forward to.
What you mean?
Well-
You don't like those Photoshop images of McCain and
Oh, the sky photos.
RBG and somebody else. Who was
I
it?
love the sky photos. They're my favorite aesthetic thing to come off the internet in a long time.
No, but it was the three of them. It was
the ghosts. Like they're
the ghost of McCain, the ghost of RBG, and the ghost of
MLK. I think there was MLK, and there was also Malcolm X was another one. They had like RGB and bloody Malcolm X. Gotta like it.
There's like an RBG like vote for Biden for her like mural like in the gentrifying district that like I drive by to work sometimes. It's pretty incredible. But I just wanted to say about this stuff like the security shit, like coming back around to hit the left. It's kind of funny. Like I was thinking about it. Like I was talking to a friend of mine and he was basically saying like people get pissed at like Jimmy Dore or whatever, but like he's kind of just like if you took like a Bush Iraq war era liberal and just put him in a time machine and transported them to like the present day.
He is. He totally is.
I mean, he literally is. Like I used to listen to Jimmy Dore back during the I wonder what are podcasts? I'm gonna find some leftist podcasts.
Well, I mean, basically that demographic became Radio War Nerd, which was cool until it started hyper standing for China every 30 seconds and almost buying what the Cow Collective says.
I mean, you're not gonna like the new direction our show's taking, but go on.
Everybody, we got another challenger, Dr. Rott.
Dr. Rott.
Dr. Rott. Did you decide to become G stands over that swamp side? Is it now like
I've started maybe taking the G pill, but it'll be good content for down the road.
Patreon bucks got to come from somewhere,
Yeah.
Hey, we all support Carl Zaw here. You don't be talking shit about my man Zaw. That's all I gotta say.
We're going over the firewall. We're gonna get over there, and because there's a lot of money, there's a lot of yuan to be made.
So you're taking the Richard Wolff strategy, I see.
Hey,
to
man.
be fair, I'm doing hard counter signaling and going full Jack Ma. So,
that means you will be disappeared in a few.
You're gonna join Jack's Gulch down in the South Pacific. He starts his insane libertarian experiment to.
Oh my God!
He hasn't been seen in months, right? Do we even know he's still alive?
I feel like that's gonna be one of those things where it's like like somebody in North Korea they say disappears and he was killed for political reasons and then turns up at some event later.
Right. Yeah. That man was fighting for the 12-hour day. Damn it! I mean, come on. Communist hero. Anyway,
996. Yeah.
Maybe he got plastic surgery and fixed his face and just no one can recognize him now.
I mean,
Is there any truth to the rumors that they found like JFK in the Capitol Hill, like he's still alive in there? Is there any truth to that one?
Yeah, he was sucking off some Roswell aliens.
Oh, sweet.
Dr. Absolutely, they're gonna find some like Q dudes hanging around in the basement underneath the Capitol building in like 2 weeks trying to find the mole children because they got lost. Because those tunnels have got to be huge. Someone's gonna get lost in there.
Save the children.
I think if nothing else, I think like the last like rump effort of this group of people in Washington will be to storm that pizza place and try and find the basement.
They already have, haven't they?
Oh, did they?
Again.
Yeah.
Oh,
wow,
yeah. That did happen.
What,
I guess I haven't been paying close enough attention. Shit.
Yeah, no. Like years ago,
earlier.
some dude like showed up with an AR and started like firing off shots, demanding to see the basement to let the children out.
I just thought they did it a second time. That'd be really good if they got 5,000 people with Armalites on that pizza shop. That's what I'm hoping. Do we have any? It's getting really late here. It's like 1:30 in the morning.
Oh Christ!
What have we not covered? There goes Dr. Rott and somebody else fell off. maybe they'll jump back in a second. But is there anything we haven't covered?
I mean, what have we covered? Shit.
Okay. Like what happens? Like, fuck me. There's 2 weeks ago before even Trump gets president, before Biden is actually formally in. That's going to be an interesting 2 weeks. But
yeah, what are those 2 weeks like? Like,
fuck
Yeah,
the
is this going to be this every day, or are we going to have like some weird like centrist coup?
I mean, it might have already taken place. You know, like Trump might be getting a stern talking to from some generals right now. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I actually think that's true because the appearances when they activated the National Guard, that the Joint Chiefs did it on their own. Then Trump claimed it. Then there are rumors that Pence claimed it, but those ended up being rumors. No one's actually saying who actually ordered the National Guard to come in and clean out the house, which they did in like a half an hour. That's the other thing. Like, as much as the Capitol Police can do it, the National Guard cleaned it up like that. And like I said, when I said I almost feel bad for these guys, everyone knows who they are. They're going to be all charged. Like, maybe that's what they want. I mean, you know, maybe they want to be martyrs for their cause or whatever. But like,
could Trump issue pardons like immediately? Could he do that?
yes, if he knows who they are.
Yeah.
If he knows
they
their
have
name.
they have
That
the
would be-
software for that.
That would be brilliant. That, as in, like, well, they'll have to get rid of Trump then if he does that, wouldn't they?
I mean,
They'd
he could
have
do
to
it in like the
actually-
11th hour.
Well, I mean, a lot of
Yeah, you
liberal
can.
Twitter has been like low key buzzing about Trump issuing pardons for these people, and that being part of the reason why there's a lot of these like centrist liberal types who want to reinstigate articles of impeachment against the president in order to actually take him out of office this time.
I think he'd be impeached if they had a vote tomorrow. I think he'd be impeached. Will the Republicans impeach him? I think they'd impeach him.
I don't think they can get a vote tomorrow on it.
But
honestly,
yeah,
Didn't they already
but
do it?
No, just hypothetically speaking. Like, I think there's enough Republicans to get a 2/3 majority.
Oh, I actually
Yeah.
kind of agree with Tom. I think Pence to Mitch McConnell. I mean, he turned on in 24 hours. He finished turning on the Supreme Court. He turned on Mitch McConnell. He turned on Barr. I mean, like,
You turn on Pence.
yeah. What do you do with that? I mean, like, also, I'm gonna be honest about Georgia. The reason why Trump lost, I mean, I see Trump lost, but it's kind of true. Trump lost Georgia is one, they activated the vote, the liberal vote in Atlanta, but two, they also actively suppressed between Trump and Mitch McConnell, depending on how you look at it, both seem to have an effect, the Republican vote in Georgia. It was super close. But but structurally speaking, DeKalb County doesn't normally count that much, and it did yesterday. And because they suppress a vote in other areas. I mean, like the Republicans think that Trump is actually cutting them off at the knees, because he kind of is. Like, talk about chickens coming home to roost, right?
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, he was basically kind of a chaos agent in this last little bit with like the $2,000 like payment thing and all, you know, because he understands that he basically got played and he's pissed. And so, you know, if there was a win, he could take credit for it. And if they lost, well, hey, that's a good fuck you to the Republican Party, who he, you know, again, he always had kind of this tense relationship with anyway. And in any case, all of this is grist for what's he going to do after this? Well, he's going to do what we're all doing. He's going into the content business. You know, he's going to amp up his parasocial relationship with his insane followers, you know, and find new ways to sell them probably supplements and God knows what else. And he's going to cash in. And that's going to, you know, and that's what all this is for. And who knows, maybe he will run again in 4 years. And if he does, he has a good narrative to do that with. It was stolen from me last time, and this time I'll get it right.
I mean, I don't think it. First of all, I don't think he is going to run again in 4 years. But even if he does, like, he's burned the GOP. we were talking about this before Jake and Varn, you guys got on, was I had mentioned that like this is the GOP didn't leave Trump. Mitch McConnell, Pence, these guys didn't leave Trump. Trump always burns his partners. Always. Like you look at his entire career, like if anything stops going precisely the way he wants it to, he turns on the people around him who aren't showing enough deference and personal loyalty. And the GOP, for for real political reasons, can't do that for Trump because Trump is a real political liability. And so now he's turning on the GOP, and he is the one who is breaking that relationship.
Kind of. I mean, McConnell got what he wanted out of him. They got his judges. As soon as that was the case, like any deference was going to be out the window, you know. But of course, also what Trump is asking to do is completely insane, and they would never do anyway. But
Yeah.
Will we wrap it up?
I suppose so. All right. What does Biden do? What does Biden do when he assumes office with regards to this? Because every bone in my body, and I understand that this today really sets us off, but every bone in my body says Biden is such a softball, liberal piece of shit that he would do like, oh, we have to come together and heal.
yeah, he's the healer in chief. He's going to heal America.
Well, that's what he was running on.
That's my instinct. Like I know that not everybody thinks
the previous administration because they're all criminals. You can't do anything because there has to be a safe back and forth transfer of power. So there's not going to be anything. We'll just forget this. He'll just basically just try and pretend like the last 4 years never happened, and and these elements will probably be pushed back into the wilderness, and the system will continue to become more unstable, and they'll try and hold to the center. Let's see how that works out for them.
Yeah, so what I actually agree with Jake, with the exception of I can see Biden not stopping the New York attorney's office from throwing everything at Trump, because he'll have plausible deniability and he can't pardon them. And that is a real threat.
He can't do it openly. And he won't do it if he thinks the back channels that he goes through to quash it are going to come out.
Yeah, well, and they will. So I think what he's going to do is he's not going to do anything. They're not going to do anything on the federal level, but they can let New York handle it. And, but the thing is, that's potentially bad. I mean, like from the standpoint of social peace, like that's not actually a great idea. But what else are you gonna do? Like, maybe they're hoping that he'll do something stupid and like run to Russia or something. Because Putin has trolled him by offering him asylum already. So
seriously,
yes.
Oh, brilliant!
He wouldn't go live there. No way.
I don't know.
No, if anything, he's just gonna hole himself up in Mar-a-Lago.
I could see that, or maybe I think I saw somebody float the idea of one of the Gulf states. He'd want to be somewhere ritzy, like Russia's to
Israel. He'd go to Israel.
Israel.
Seriously, that's where he'd go. Absolutely, 100%.
Israel, Israel or UAE, but yeah.
No, that'll be the final nail in Richard Spencer's heart. If you're saying that you agree with Jake on this, you by a transitive property agreeing with me on this. Essentially, I expect Biden is to Trump as Obama is to Bush, but
weaker. Biden is to Trump, but Obama is to Bush, but even weaker. The difference is
if Biden allows this New York prosecution, it would be a stronger response.
Well, right? But he can't really squash it unless he really wants to be outed for doing so.
I think Biden is enough of a healer to attempt something like that. That's what I think was elected. Like,
well, then we're in a feedback loop where that's going to get leaked out, and then his own base is going to go ape shit.
I mean,
his
a
own
lot
base
will
is
roll
going to
over.
be punching itself to shut the fuck up about all of its principles, everything it's raging about right now.
Well,
Like,
yeah. Which is why I don't think they were going to win in 2024. Like, they poison pill. I mean, Biden's not going to run, but you really think Kamala Harris is going to be able to just sweep in and save us in 2024? I don't want to sound like Mike Kreisman, because Mike Kreisman will say stuff like, well, Biden might be the last Democratic president and we're going to be live under like Republican United Russia forever, which I do not believe at all. But there's this other theory that basically once Trump loses, there'll never be another Republican president because, all the demographic trends favor the Democrats, even though all those trends are loosening, even in the last election.
those people don't understand how race is constructed. Like,
I could see Biden like secretly squashing it, that getting out, and then him like posting on Twitter, like giving his dog some bacon with like the caption like "It's okay if he has a little bacon," and all the liberals just be like, "Oh, he's so epic." Oh man, and that's the news.
I mean, I Jake, I half hope the liberals are that short-sighted and that dumb, but like
they are. They are.
Well, and the other thing is, I think the Democrats could stand a good chance of maintaining the presidency, depending on how big the massacre is in 2022.
Oh yeah, that's true. But which will be pretty big because they don't have. I mean, if you look at like 2008 to 2010, our 90, was it 92 to 94? Like they were much clearer winners in both those elections in all parts of government, and lost a lot more. If this continues, man, they're going to be buried in 2022.
Oh yeah, E Minor is pointing out that they already lost a bunch of centrist Democrats in the House this year. So
yeah, they have. Well, the thing is though, like, okay, so I'm hearing people say that the Stacey Abrams thing in Georgia indicates that a progressive policy would win, and they might be right about that. But Ossoff is not a progressive. Ossoff is basically failed up. Like, he's lost that election, that same, like the House election stuff multiple times, and I happen to know that because I'm from Georgia. So like, anyway.
Last E Minor, if you want to get in, as you'll jump out, but I'm going to have to turn this thing off. People, I'm about to fall over. I'm tired.
Yeah, get some sleep, man.
Yeah, Jesus, get some damn sleep. Forklift, get some sleep.
Like last thoughts. Then
don't worry about our bullshit.
See, when you're far removed now, it's good fun. You can just it's always good to see such disaster happening in America. Let's be honest.
Hey,
we're all far removed. Like I don't live in Washington.
I have 1,000-yard stare emotional distance from anything that happens in this country.
That's good. Let's see. Last thoughts. Tiberius. Let's start with Tiberius.
So my thoughts are, it really remains to be seen, like how much of this level of intensity can be maintained over the next 2 weeks. Because I really think that the reactionary QAnon cultist right just doesn't have the kind of fortitude or like protest knowledge in order to maintain it. But if they are able to continue to come out, like what we're going to be seeing in the Biden administration is Biden reaching across to GOP elite, continuing his like reunification of America thing.
You finally read it. You finally read it, Derek.
Yeah. But I think in either case, what's going to happen, like that's going to be directly affecting us, is that his his entire administration policy is basically going to be centered around like superficial issues in America. He has no desire or ability to make any kind of reforms that would make the Democratic Party broadly more palatable than it is currently. And there is going to be either a very low-key ramping up of police repression of both the left and the right, or it's going to be or depending on how violent the right gets, it's going to be more open. But in either case, like, this is basically just a grab by Biden to try to maintain the kind of status quo that existed before Trump, and it's just not going to be anywhere near as successful as the Obama administration was, as unsuccessful as his administration was.
Yeah, I'd mostly echo Tiberius's attempt at the pause button by someone who doesn't know how to work a VCR. Look into the Biden presidency. I think that Biden will push for maximum leniency on Trump. And, you know, whether or not he has to use like back channels or something to like make New York chill out on their own investigation of Trump, I think the resistance is in for a profound disappointment, as it always will be in a Popular Front, you know, situation where there's, you know, no Nazis. Like,
yeah, Derek, last thoughts.
Let's see. I think that this proves my thesis that if the United States didn't exist, the UK would have to invent it to distract from its crimes.
well, they kind of did.
That's explicitly what they did.
And that we'd be talking about how much of a clusterfuck Brexit is if we weren't a bigger clusterfuck here. Beyond that, and then more seriously, I mostly agree with Tiberius. What I think, though, is both sides are playing with fire that they actually cannot control. And you can't do that forever. I don't think like it's the end of the... I don't think it's the end of the Republic. I mean, I kind of wish it was, frankly. Not that I like what would likely come after it, but like, I do think, historically speaking, we're going to be in a lot of years of instability, and we dodged it in the 80s, basically, actually, as much as we all hate to admit it, from neoliberal financialization, buying us time by changing the modes. You know, those countervailing tendencies that always seem to exist forever. But yeah, I think you know, sup, Poya. I think one thing that what I would like to see is even something as marginal as forgiving small amounts of student loan debt. Probably won't happen. I'd be interested to see if Biden even continues the freezing on student loan payments, which I think if he doesn't do would be disastrous for him politically, but who knows? He may not. It's weird that we're dependent on Betsy DeVos. Betsy DeVos is even like froze it without Trump's authority, hoping that Biden will continue it later because she's afraid of the outcome. That's a cretin like DeVos. So we'll see. And we're not going to get Medicare for all. No way.
We're not even going to get an expansion of the ACA.
Wow, strong predictions here. No Medicare for all.
No
from the Biden administration. You heard it here first, people.
Yeah, and no end to world hunger. Okay, Dr. Roth, do you want to come in with a comment before we wrap up comment? Earth calling Dr. Roth. Dr. Roth. Oh, let's go.
Anybody in the back room? Jake. What about Jake?
Let's
Jake's
go to
just
Jake.
sitting here politely smiling, has a nice hard combed haircut.
Looking at himself in the mirror as a dolphin, as you do. Jake.
As one does.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think Trump was able to really like fill this necessary problem that like the GOP had and that like politicians are having generally, which is they can't give people anything and the system is becoming more unstable. So what do? He was able to had a unique capacity to really just smash that culture war button. You know, like I saw this video of this recently elected congresswoman from Colorado, and she was like it was like a 5-minute video of her bragging about her big pledge to her voters, which is she's going to carry her Glock to Congress every day in Washington, D.C. Right? Like that's what you get. That's what you get, you pigs. Like that's, you don't get anything. You don't get any assistance. I can trigger the libs by carrying this Glock to Congress. Right? That's the Republican Party version of like, whatever liberal bullshit they do for the Democrats. And they can only keep smashing that button so long, before the system becomes increasingly unstable. Trump definitely like accelerated a lot of things, especially like this pivot against China, which has now become completely normal even in liberal publications. But it was an accelerant on something that was probably going to happen no matter what anyway, which would probably be a big part of his like future rehabilitation. But I'm not going to predict what's going to happen or anything. But yeah, just look for a continued. There might be following the rollout of COVID, assuming there's not a huge financial crash, there might be like a limited kind of somewhat return to normalcy just by people who want to party because they've been locked up for a year and a half. But beyond that, like there's going to be a heightening of the contradictions within this decade, no question. And we are far from being prepared to reap the fallout from that. But the most we can try and do is maybe agitate and try and like present people with some kind of an alternative so they can at least start thinking about how to move beyond this, insanely limited system. We don't have like the same advantages that like say the SPD had, where like the Second Reich was only years old. We have like a constitutional republic that's like 2.5 centuries old. But breaking people out of that will be tremendously difficult. But maybe the instability will loosen things up enough that we can do that. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, like I think I'm kind of looking at America now. I don't think America could go and do a war, and I think other nations are going to see that. And I don't think, I think that some of the instability inevitably that's internal now in America is going to actually be forced from an external source. At some point, something's going to happen somewhere, like a revolution they don't want somewhere. A war or some attack by somebody somewhere on something, and I think that will unleash very strange dynamics in the core. I think that this stuff is kind of. I feel like the summer has been like, and this together has been this kind of a weird dysfunction at like a social media level, and that. All of this fear of fascism and stuff like that is like, it's an online kind of a thing. There's not a real thing, but I think something is coming probably as America gets more dysfunctional and people in other countries around the world see the reduction in American geopolitical power that's plain to people all around the world now. And I think some of that dysfunction is going to come back in. And I think when that happens, we'll see something that's a lot more real than what we've seen this summer. I think this is like a right-wing expression of the George Floyd, which was, for us, the George Floyd thing was brilliant, but like, it's also still something that's kind of ephemeral and bubbles and froth on the top of something. The pot isn't boiling. It's like, I think there's a lot more to come. And I just see at least one decade of systemic political crisis in the Americas, but it could literally be 3 decades. That's the way that's my general feel.
I think your connection to this as a sort of mirror George Floyd protest is like prescient, because on the one hand it shows that like the actual social spark for leftist political rebellion, and it's not even really like starting out as a leftist thing, but it's an emancipatory desire coming from oppressed people being shot by police and trying to fight back against the state. That desire is a lot less establishment bound than like some astroturf like, oh, they stole the election, you have to come help me, you guys. Whereas the way that the establishment responded to to the George Floyd protests versus the way that the establishment has so far responded to this, LARP coup, is telling. Where the former was mostly like, it was mostly positive. I mean, of course, it was, not quite. It was heterogeneous for sure, but the latter, the reaction has been almost unanimously negative. And so we're going to see how that changes under a Democratic administration. Pulling on Derek's thread, highly suspect that it's going to get worse for the for rebellions of people, genuinely oppressed people against the state. This is part of a dialectic, for lack of a better word, perhaps a conversation of history of different kinds of incoherent insurgencies, and this will likely be one shot in another conversation. Where the next shot is coming from, anybody's guess.
You're muted, Tom, by the way.
Sorry, I just told a brilliant joke, but it's lost forever. So thanks everybody for that's not true. I'm a liar. That's the brilliant joke, the bit that I lied about. Thanks everybody for coming. I think we might have broken our record for a live stream. What was our record before? We had over 70. I think we had up to 75 today.
Oh, wow.
Outrageous. So thanks everybody, and sure, we'll see what happens the next few days. This could be interesting. There could be. I expect it'll be just ultra farce in the next week. Ultra farce. That's my
just
prediction.
A complete shit show up to January 20th.
Yeah, absolutely. Just but there could be some absolute craziness, like in just some like Montana or something. Like something really weird is going to happen in the next. I'll be surprised in the next fortnight. We'll get something. Derek, you're in Montana country. What's going to happen there?
Who knows, man?
I'm literally in Montana at the moment, actually.
Seriously?
Yeah. I'm getting the fuck out back to California this weekend.
Yeah, you're in Utah. I'm in Arizona. Anything can happen, people.
Are they going to get trained, or not trained, but wild bears on leashes like grizzlies, and release them into the Montana State House and something, and they gore all of the Democratic Party to death?
They're not nearly that cool, no.
No.
Yeah, they're really not.
Do we have words of wisdom from E minor?
E minor.
Not really. I was gonna say, I don't know, Trump might post some Iran shit again, but who knows?
If they let him back on Twitter ever,
yeah.
The only thing, man. Could you imagine if they actually do pull the 25th bullshit? That would be insane.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of craziness, the one thing I want to end on, how fucking crazy do you think Biden's inauguration is going to be?
Oh, man, it's going to be wild.
I mean, between both the left and the right, just bonkers.
Oh,
absolutely bonkers.
I really hope no leftists or anybody gets hurt trying to defend Biden. Come on, man.
No, they're gonna show up with popsicles in their mouths, being "Yeah, we must defend our president."
Derek, that's a good question. That's going to be who's going to be out there cheering? There's going to be 4 people. I don't know.
In masks.
They'll probably do the cars thing actually, and I'll just be honking like all of his other rallies.
Oh my god!
I want to see anarchists burning a limo again. That's what I want.
Cars.
Right. I'm going to bed. I'm
good night.
Good night. Thank you, everyone.